I am a professor at the University of Chicago. I have been there for 26 years, almost 27 years. And before that, I was a professor who taught for the U.S. Air Force. I taught conventional targeting. And I thought I was going to go into the Foreign Service. I wanted to understand how we lost the Vietnam War. And this became the origins of Bombing to Win.
Which is your book I have here in front of me.
That's Bombing to Win. In 1985, I've just finished all my classes and I have to pick a topic for my PhD. I wanted to find the book that laid out all the air campaigns and that explained why Vietnam was a loser. Where did that L come from?
When you say air campaigns, for someone that knows nothing about military conflict, what do you mean by air campaigns?
What I mean with an air campaign is when you have military aircraft who are not just doing a single raid, bombing one target one day, but doing a campaign over days, weeks, months, in the case of Vietnam, over years.
And you wanted to figure out why countries that do these military campaigns, which is pretty much what's going on now in the Middle East, why they don't tend to win.
Why they don't win when they're so strong. Why is it that when a strong power really gets its act together, it's not careless, it's really thinking hard, it then applies this force, a campaign over time, and comes out a loser?
And you modeled for 20 years a war with Iran versus the United States.
That's exactly right. I imagined in class for 90 minutes, I laid out what a hypothetical bombing campaign of Iran would look like, starting with the bombing of its nuclear enrichment sites. There's multiple sites. There's Fordo, which is an industrial enrichment where there are centrifuges. There's Natanz, also centrifuges. There's Esifon, where you have gasification of the ore so you can make the centrifuges more efficient. So it's not just one target. There's a whole target set, a complex of targets. And so what I would do is I would lay out, here are the aircraft that could be used. Here are the likely results at a tactical level. Yes, just for context, so we're looking at a map of Iran, and we're looking at the Persian Gulf, and Iran, of course, is to the east of the Persian Gulf, and Tehran is up to the north middle. Right in the middle are a whole series of these nuclear sites. You have Sagand, which is where the uranium ore actually comes from. They don't have to bring in ore. They have plenty of ore. But the ore has to be distilled so that you can get the tiny bits of uranium-235 you need for enriching the uranium for either nuclear reactors or bomb-grade uranium. That's first done at Esifon to gasify the ore so that when it spins in the centrifuge facilities at Natanz and Fordo, you can get the purity of the uranium-235. That's what we're talking about here when we say it's enriched.
So when you did this 21 years of modeling these attacks, how did the model show America came out of this situation?
There was a consistent set of findings you just couldn't ignore, Stephen, which is our bombers would always be able to destroy the target, the industrial facility that was enriching the uranium. The problem always was, no matter which year we did this, you wouldn't be able to destroy the enriched material, the actual gold. So if you're panning for gold, you see what I mean, and you've got the gold, you can destroy the pan, you can even destroy the river, you can't get the gold.
So let me repeat that back to you in layman's terms, and you tell me if I'm correct. So they could bomb these sites where they're making the enriched uranium, but it wouldn't destroy the enriched uranium, it would just put it underneath a bunch of rubble.
That's right.
So you can bomb it, but you're basically just kicking the can down the road because at some point they can go back and get it, it's undamaged, and then they can carry on their process.
That's right. And Stephen, they might even anticipate the bombs coming because they might get some indications, we're building up, and then disperse in advance.
And at the end of last year, they did Operation Midnight Hammer, where they bombed the sites with these incredible...
Exactly as we did in class. Literally, I had just modeled it for the students 3 weeks before, and almost exactly the platforms. I mean, on the B-2s, the Moab, every single thing we talked about, it unfolded just as we had modeled in class.
So what is going on now? I want you to help me cut through all of this noise and all of this propaganda.
What's going on now is we're not weakening Iran in a sense where Iran will be weaker a year from now, 2 years from now. We have strengthened Iran. And we're strengthening Iran in multiple ways. So far, we've just been talking about bombs on target. My real specialty, Stephen, is the interaction of military action and politics. You're not just hitting an industrial target. People in the country, the population, the regime, they're reacting to that politically. And that reaction is tremendously important. And that's what I discovered in my work studying Vietnam in the 1980s, why the bombing campaign was failing, the political reactions by the population often are overwhelming the tactical military effects. So you can hit the target, you can destroy the industrial facilities, and in fact, you can energize the population to work even harder to overcome all that damage. And sometimes they have tremendous geographic advantages. In Vietnam, there was an area called the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which was where the logistics, where the ammo for the Viet Cong guerrilla fighters in the South were getting their ammo. And in the 1960s, we knocked out 80+% of the throughput of that pipeline, of that trail. You know what? It wasn't enough. And we ended up not being able to stop that little itty bitty bit of throughput that still could get through, and incentivize even more to get it through because they knew we couldn't stop it. And that is what fueled the VC and ultimately the Viet Cong, the guerrillas that we were really up against in Vietnam. That is what ultimately bolstered their morale. They knew we couldn't beat them. Even though we whittled them down by 80%, we couldn't get that last 15 or 20%. And that was what was energizing their morale.
So how does that apply to what's going on now? In simple terms, what's going on?
Iran has figured out that we can't beat them. That's what's going on, Stephen. They are figuring out that we can't beat them. We can bomb them. We can attack them. We could even threaten to murder all 92 million of them, which is the civilization threat by President Trump. And the bottom line is that we can't get to that final 10, 20% of drones and missiles.
Okay,
that Iran has, and it's probably bigger than that we can't knock out. See, we're able to knock out anything that's above ground. If there's a launcher and it's above ground, we can see it. We can see it with satellites. We can see it with other sensors as well. That thing is going to be gone in a few days. And that's what the air campaign that you've watched for 40 days is doing. When Secretary Hegseth or General Kane talk about hitting 11, 12,000 targets, these are targets, almost all of them, that are very clearly visible and above ground. This is true of the Navy ships as well. Well, guess what? The Iranians knew that was always going to be vulnerable. So what they've been doing is they have been not just deeply burying their industrial enrichment facilities, they've been deeply burying their arsenals of drones, deeply burying their arsenals of missiles. And so they are in a position where even though we are unleashing enormous amounts of air power against them, and we are technically superior, we can't stop their drone attacks against the ships in the Strait of Hormuz. They know it. They can use that to their advantage, and boy, are they using it to their advantage enormously.
Yesterday, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, did a press conference, and one of the reporters said to him, there's been a ceasefire announced, but it appears that Iran are still attacking neighboring countries. Hegseth's response to the reporter was, Iran would be wise to find a way to get their carrier pigeon to the troops out in remote locations to let them know not to shoot any longer. It can sometimes take time for ceasefires to take hold, which was really alarming to me because it suggests that there is actually not a centralized leadership structure in Iran. And actually, if there's not a centralized leadership structure, how does one negotiate a ceasefire if there's lots of different factions doing lots of different things now? Is that True.
I would say it's probably decentralized. I think he's probably right about that.
I'm trying to figure out who in Iran is negotiating with America and why it doesn't seem to be the case that whoever's negotiating control the fact that people are still firing drones.
Oh, I see. Yeah, decentralization means chaotic and they can't actually make decisions. That's just not the case. The more you move up the chain of command, the more the leader can give pre-delegated orders. If X happens, do Y. Those can hold for hours and days. And that's true in every organization. That's why leaders can go on vacation for a week and come back, and they're worried, of course, when they come back. But the bottom line is that the leaders are setting the strategic direction.
Who is the leader?
Oh, it's definitely the supreme leader, the son of the one we just killed. Oh, without a doubt. I think this idea that he's not there, there's absolutely no evidence of that. Yes, it's decentralized in the sense it's hard to find them, to target them. But by the way, Stephen, I think the reason that we're trying to talk smack about the supreme leader, is he alive, is he dead, is we're trying to goad him into revealing his location so we can kill him. But that's not working. And it's also not stopping Iran from putting out 10 points to Pakistan in the negotiations. It's not stopping Iran from having messages that go through Pakistan to the White House. President Trump is then agreeing to the 10 points that are coming from Iran, you see. And then later on, of course, President Trump is taking it back. But the bottom line is what you're seeing in terms of chaotic decision-making, far more chaotic decision-making is happening in the White House in the United States than's happening in the government of Iran. Their rising power in the region as our power is declining precipitously.